who do you think is going to be the most impactful player for the Celtics when they go up against the Nets in the first round of the playoffs?
I know that everybody wants to say Jason Tatum, and I know that he's the guy that's single-handedly been carrying this team into the current state that they're in right now. But when we talk about most impactful, an X factor, it's got to be somebody different. It's got to be somebody that's going to make or break this team. And in my opinion, that's Jaylen Brown. It's always going to be Jaylen Brown. We know that Jason's going to get his 20 to 25 shots up. We know that Jason's going to score anywhere from 25 to 30. We know that Jason is going to be able to rebound the basketball and defend Kevin Durant as best to his capabilities. But when you're talking about somebody that needs to step up and be that Robin to his Batman, someone that's got to step up and be the B to his A, he's got to be able to go out there and he's got to lock up on the defensive side, whether he's matched up against Kyrie, whether he's matched up against KD, whether he's matched up against Patty Mills. I don't know. Jalen's got to dominate one side of the ball. Now, I don't know if some would say he's got to pick and choose which one he wants to do. Are you going to put in all your efforts to try to slow down one of the premier two scorers, or are you going to accept a more of an offensive journey? Since we know that Brooklyn isn't exactly known for guarding very well and kind of being known for a defensive minded as a team, they're not known for defense, should I say? Jaylen Brown's got to do 25 a game minimum. Jaylen Brown's got to have the series of his life. Ironically enough, these two teams played against each other in the postseason last year. Um, Jalen, excuse me. Um, oh my goodness, Jason Tatum was able to carry the Celtics getting a win, and with a 50-point performance at that. So it was no easy feat. Except it was reversed last year. Brooklyn was the 2 seed, Boston was the 7th seed, and now we've actually reversed the roles. And now Boston is one of the best, if not the best, defensive rated team in the NBA. Jason Tatum is having an MVP caliber season. Obviously, Robert Williams is hurt, one of their better defenders. So it is going to be solely on the shoulders of Marcus Smart, a defensive player of the year candidate, to go out there and make his presence known on the defensive side of the ball as well. But he's got to hit his open shots. He's got to make sure that he's knocking down those floaters and making those layups and getting those scrappy loose balls. But Jalen's got to perform to the best of his ability. I'm talking like 45% from the field, maybe 35% from the 3 point line, 75 to 80% from the free throw line. He's gotta help Jason. Jason cannot do this alone. He carried Boston to one win last year, and that was without Kyrie Irving playing in that series. Kyrie has been an absolute monstrous tear over the last couple of weeks since they've lifted that mandate in New York City. And even prior to that, he was able to perform at a stellar level. I think that all the pressure's on Boston. I think that everything is going to fall on the shoulders of Jaylen Brown and, of course, Jason Tatum. But yeah, man, if I really had to say it, Jalen's got a lot of pressure on him because we all know what Jason can do. If Jalen underperforms, man, I'm going to make a bold statement right here. I think Jalen might get traded this offseason.
I don't know about traded, but I will say this: I could appreciate where you're coming from with Jalen, and I'm actually gonna side with you on this one because I was kind of thinking because you know, Jason is clearly like the number one player that
No
Boston
doubt.
has on their roster. Right? Everybody knows that. That's not anything surprising. But the one aspect that I have to focus on with Jaylen Brown, the one element in his game that I think is better than Jason Tatum's, is his defensive presence. And I think with Jalen's defensive capabilities, that's going to be a focal point to me to watch throughout this entire series. No matter who Jaylen Brown is guarded against, or he guards against, he's got to play elite defense. He's got to play incredible defense because you look at Brooklyn. Brooklyn is primarily, like Kevin said, a offensively minded team. They're going to go out there and score at least 110, 115 points if they're able to knock down their shots consistently. The only thing that makes that a difference is whether or not if Boston can play good defense. And Jaylen Brown is one of the enforcers that they have on their roster to maybe go alongside like Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart definitely brings that element of grit to that team. But Jaylen Brown's defensive capabilities have to be respected. And I think it's going to be something that we're going to have to watch because he's guarding Kevin Durant. If he's guarding Kyrie Irving or if he's guarding somebody like Bruce Brown, picking players that he may potentially get matched up against. If he's able to slow them down, because I don't think he's going to be able to lock up anybody, but if he's able to slow them down to the point where they're inconsistent against Jaylen Brown, that's huge for Boston moving forward because the less amount of points that Boston gives up, the better that they're going to be. Because it's like Kevin said, Boston is one of the better defensive teams, if not the best defensive team in the NBA this season, and it's for good reason. There have been games where I've watched Boston where they've played phenomenal defense and they've held teams to under 100 points consistently. And I think going up against Brooklyn, that is of utmost importance. If they're able to do that consistently against a offensive driven team like Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant leading the way, that gives them a very good shot to win this series against Brooklyn. Even though, like for me personally, I think that Brooklyn is still going to win this series just because I think the firepower is going to be too much for Boston to handle. That doesn't mean that I don't think that Boston can win this series. Boston has the pieces to be able to beat Brooklyn, and it's simply just turning up the defensive pressure from beginning to end in this series. And to go along with that, if the defense is working on that side of the ball, hopefully on the other side of the ball, you have guys like Jason Tatum, you have guys like Marcus Smart, maybe even Peyton Pritchard, who can knock down their shots consistently to go along with Jaylen Brown as well. Because Jason Tatum can go out there and score 40 points if he needs to, but Jaylen Brown could also put up 25, 30 points if he's just given the right opportunities. So I think if you're looking at it from Boston's perspective, if I had to say their X factor going into this next series, it's not Jason Tatum, it's Jaylen Brown because of what he could do not only on the offensive side of the ball, but the defensive side of the ball. That's something where I think Jaylen has a much more well-rounded game in that regard. Jason is better than Jaylen as far as his offensive capabilities go, but I give the slight edge to Jaylen as just a well-rounded player because I have to respect what he does on the defensive side of the ball. And I think he's going to be the biggest piece to watch moving forward for Boston if they were to beat Brooklyn in this series. It's going to be a very fun series, and I can't wait to see this series go down because it's going to be entertaining as hell. So that's just how I see it.